For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is a special edition of The Scribble on this January 31st. We are live on Saturday morning, and I'm chiming in here because, for, 12 years that we've done this show, the new episode comes out on Friday, and there are times when something big happens on the Friday, literally an hour or two after the episode goes live, and we can't talk about it, right? Because the show is done. We're already out of there, right? It's the weekend. Goodbye. And there are some times that we jump in. We did that with Betty White's death. That's, I guess, just over 4 years ago now. And so we do feel the need sometimes to come on and talk about what's happening. So let me describe to you our Friday. And by the way, this is not going to be a full 30-minute show today. But we've got our entourage in town for the Grammys this weekend, all right? So we are there on the red carpet. We're at the events all weekend. Actually, it was starting Thursday night when Don Lemon got arrested. So we're going to cover a few things on this show as quickly as possible because everything collapsed and just, exploded Friday morning, all right? So I was preparing to go to the Melania Trump documentary. I'm an entertainment host. I'm going there for work, right? I'm not a Melania fan. Remember, I'm Canadian, so I really don't, give a crap about Melania or Donald or anything like that. So I was going for comedic value because I thought I want to be the only one in a Los Angeles movie theater watching, the big screen. Sure enough, I was. So I'm on my way there. It was almost about 10 o'clock at that point. And we've got... I've explained before on our show, because we're a news outlet, we have a Newswire setup. We've got a subscription to a Newswire service. So when there's major entertainment stories, it gives this blaring alarm, and it scares the shit out of you. And so I have 3 phones. I've got my work phone, my personal phone, and then this news alert phone. That phone doesn't have social media, nothing. It's just that on there. So as I'm on my way to the theater, all of a sudden there's this, and it changes, it's hard to explain, I should post screenshots at some point, but the stories will, be simmering, and then if it changes color and goes like orange or yellow, and then red, it means something to journalists, okay? So anyway, I see that there's this story that Catherine O'Hara is dead, and I was just like, what? That can't be. That can't possibly be. But I'm on my way already to this Melania thing that we've committed to covering. So because my team is all here for the Grammys this weekend, and we were supposed to be covering Grammy stuff on Friday and Saturday, I said, all right, here's the deal, you guys. We've got to split up. Because also, we found out that Don Lemon was arrested. Also in Los Angeles. So it's a great thing that the entire team is here. So I said, I did a group text to everybody as I was on my way to Melania, because I'm already, there. So I've got, 2 producers following the Catherine O'Hara story. I've got 1 following Don Lemon. I've got Suzanne, our producer, still following the Grammys. And then there's more Epstein files released. And so how is that a celebrity thing? Well, that the celebrities chime in on social media, right? And talk about Trump and Epstein and all, all that other stuff. So we have these 5 stories happening all at once on a Friday morning. And so because we're already off the air, and it's just kind of like, we kind of have to jump in at some point. And so Catherine obviously is the biggest story because, you know her from Home Alone and Beetlejuice and Schitt's Creek. It's endless. SCTV for the Canadians. I'm Canadian too, right? So is she. So the celebrity reactions were fast and furious, as they always are with somebody like that. And I've known her. I'm 43, but I've known of her since, again, SCTV, because that was the 80s when I was growing up. We only had 2 or 3 stations. It was on MTN, I believe, which was one of our Manitoba stations. Kind of a late night comedy show. If you're not familiar, it was sort of like an SNL sort of deal, a sketch show. And that's how I know her and Eugene Levy. And, so when you're a Canadian kid growing up in the 80s, you were exposed to that comedy. Great. John Candy, Rick Moranis, all of them. Martin Short. I mean, I can't even remember them all. There's just like a group of them, a class of them. And so, Catherine O'Hara is one of those celebs that was never really caught up in scandals. Right? I mean, think about that. What's the last sort of, dramatic, scandalous story that, she was involved with? Like, really? None. So, and there are certain celebrities like that, right? Still ones that are alive. I mean, you got, like Dolly Parton, certainly Betty White when she was alive. There's just, some of them that you don't hear bad stuff about them. They kind of just are, pleasant people. Vanna White, she recently got married. I was like, yeah, she's never really, aside from when Ryan Seacrest took over Wheel of Fortune, that, she was never, you don't know her politics. You don't know if she's, you don't know if she's racist, a bigot, homophobic, whatever. She's just a pleasant person. Nobody has anything bad to say about her. So you just assume decent, So that was that. Now then, Don Lemon. I have a thought on the Don Lemon story because I've actually talked about this on the Scribble here several times. The difference between a journalist and a commentator. Don was or is a trained journalist, but he doesn't act as one. He doesn't operate as one. Even on CNN, he was a commentator. He wasn't out there reporting on news. He might have been the host, on the scene of a major event, but he's not the one who's out there doing the research and interviewing people. He's sitting at the desk and anchoring a primetime yell fest is really what it is. And so that's where I take issue, and I've talked about the different podcasts like that Midas Touch one, and people who consider themselves independent journalists. And you have to remember that a journalist, when they're reporting, quote unquote reporting, they're not giving you opinion. They're giving you facts. They're not editorializing. They're not calling somebody scum, a liar, whatever. They're just presenting the story. That's what a journalist does. So when Don was arrested because of that protest that he was involved in, and I still use the word involved in because, again, as a journalist, you're watching from the sidelines. You're standing outside the church in Minneapolis and you are recording the people going in. Now, when you're going in with them, that's a different story, right? Does it make it okay just because you're holding a microphone? And that's kind of where that's where it gets divided, where you have the people who are supporting Lemon, calling him a journalist and saying, well, he was just reporting the news. And then others say, well, just because you're holding a microphone doesn't make you a journalist. You're still with the mob and you're still causing a scene and you're still part of it. Watching from the sidelines and not in the building, right? Because, it's a protest. They're going into what, is public property, but it's private property, but it's public property, but it's private property. I certainly wouldn't have, busted my way in as a journalist. I would have, waited and maybe they'd hold the door open and my camera can zoom in and see, but I'm not going in with the mob. That's something where you've now aligned with them. So I actually now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that he should have been arrested or whatever, but I'm just saying as a journalist, that's not something that you would do. You just wouldn't do that because now you're trespassing. Now you're kind of pushing your way into something that you weren't invited in to cover. You can cover from the street, from the sidewalk, from outside. But I do think that he kind of crossed the line. And if you saw his live stream and the way he was kind of setting up that day, he had his arm around or kissed on the cheek or something, one of the protesters. And so I just kind of thought, again, you're not being impartial at this point. You're siding with them. You're siding with these people that are about to go in there to cause a disturbance. So I do see it from the people who say that he was in the wrong. Now, again, we all have our own opinion, right? We're all entitled to that. I guess unless you're American, you're not really entitled to that anymore. So that's my thought on the Don Lemon thing. He was released later in the afternoon, and he's saying that he's not gonna shut up. In fact, he's gonna speak up even louder now. Jane Fonda was on the scene outside the courtroom, and so we had one of our producers there who was following that story as well. Now, let me get to Epstein files. We're not going to really go over because the celebrity reactions we don't really have. But the Melania documentary. All right, so here I am. I took a big floppy hat and giant black sunglasses. I did. I took a costume. Oh, we got to take a break very quickly. All right, take a break. I'll tell you about Melania on the other side. We'll be right back.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here on this rapid fire, fast paced, this abbreviated version of The Scribble today. So I was at the Melania documentary yesterday morning on Friday, and I knew, based on the seating map of the theater, that I was going to be the only one there. And I kind of thought, you know what, that would be kind of cool, right, to be in my own personal theater in Los Angeles watching a movie. So I took a big sun hat that I had from... We've got costumes and things at our office. So took this big floppy hat and giant sunglasses, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit in the theater, I'll do a bunch of selfies, I'll take pictures of myself looking pouty like she does. And, you know, I went into it open-minded. I mean, I figured that I would have a little bit of sarcasm with my review of it or my thoughts, and I did. Here's what I learned, which I kind of already knew. She's a very cold person. She's very cold. Everything just seems staged and forced. At the very beginning, first of all, she walks in, they're playing Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. So I always thought, whenever I hear, you know, the kid is not my son, I'm like, well, she's distancing herself from her husband. Basically, she's saying that little kid, he's not my son, he's my husband. Even then, there's very little warmth between the two of them. So at the first 5 minutes, you see her walking around. She's greeting everybody with the double kisses. And again, it just seems forced and staged and rehearsed, as though, okay, and she's going to walk in now. Okay, you do the double kiss. You tell her she looks great. You say Happy New Year. And okay, we're following her for the 20 days leading up to the last inauguration, by the way. So again, it's very forced, very staged. There's really no warmth between her and her husband. Her son, Baron, only shows up almost an hour into the movie, which is a little bit strange. She meets up with her husband after however long they were apart. He does the double kiss on the cheeks. They never kiss on the lips. But she has no warm interactions with her family at all. She goes to a church to pay tribute to her mom, and she's by herself. Now, something like that seems very disingenuous because it's staged and just, you know, it's cinematic as she walks in and goes up the aisle to say a prayer and lights a candle. You want something like that if it's a true documentary to be what's called run and gun, where you kind of, you know, the camera isn't necessarily steady and it's kind of, you know, she's going to do her thing and cameras just capture it. Just, you know, follow her, kind of, you know, do it. And that it wasn't like that. So it kind of makes you wonder, okay, she goes to this church to pay tribute to her mom. How many takes did they do? How many times does she walk into the church? How many times does she walk up to the aisle, or does she stop in the aisle and the camera's repositioned, then she starts walking again? There's something very, very, very disingenuous about that. Ditto that when she goes to a cemetery and she's, alongside family members who have lost, military loved ones. And again, you're kind of like, does she really need to be using this in her documentary? I mean, she's kind of doing what a first lady should. So do we really need to see that? And I'm assuming that the family's agreed to be part of it, but still, right? Knowing that she's getting paid $40 million for this, Then there's another weird moment where she's holding job interviews for her new staff. And again, it's really strange because, first of all, if they were legitimate job interviews, it is kind of awkward where, oh, you're showing up for the job interview? Okay, by the way, sign this release form. You're going to be in a documentary. Here, go into makeup now. Put on this microphone. And, and here, we're going to record you. So that also, too, is very strange. So it's not quite 2 hours. You don't really learn anything new about her. Don't expect to see her casual. Don't expect to see her in sweats and eating junk food and sitting on the couch watching me. You see her sitting on the couch just casually dressed to the nines in, knee-high boots with heels. And, that's her relaxing. She doesn't spend any sort of personal quality time with her family at all. Her dad does make an appearance when he's talking about the dead mom. But otherwise, it's a very, very cold Melania Trump. Even the people around her, there's no warmth. There's just, yeah. It's a really interesting documentary. Now, I wrote all about it. Go to speakfreewithjb.com. 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 And I had my computer. You know what? When you're an entertainment reporter, you go. I went there full computer. I had 3 seats around me. I had all my stuff out there. But I did. I reviewed it at speakfreewithjb.com. Then the other story that is playing out this weekend is the Grammys, and we will be covering that, as we always do. And so we'll have a full rundown of the red carpet, the award show, just all of it. It's basically a concert, right? That's essentially what the Grammys has become. And we'll be talking about that Monday on Entertainment Wrap Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. But yeah, what a Friday. I mean, seriously, to have the Don Lemon arrest we knew about first, and then Catherine O'Hara, and then moments later I had the Melania documentary, and then at the same time the Epstein files were coming out with, this report or this claim that Donald Trump forced a 13-year-old to give him oral sex or something like that. Don't quote me on that because I'm trying to think of all the headlines that were flying across my phone yesterday. And then, of course, we're covering the Grammys. So, and it's great because our team from Canada actually came here on Thursday. And so just when they think, okay, we'll ease into the weekend, no, we had everybody going full throttle. So that's just a day in the life of an entertainment reporter. But again, the Melania documentary, that was a day in the life of Melania Trump, who, Michael Jackson's apparently her favorite singer, and she's trying to sing along to Billie Jean in the back of a car and seemingly does not know the words, really. So I would suggest to you, if you want to have a laugh, go with a friend to the empty theater and certainly watch it there. But I think it's coming out on Amazon Prime or something, I guess, in a month or two after it comes to the theater. I don't see this staying in the theater for very long. I really don't. But, if you did go to see it, send me an email. I would love to hear from you. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. That is an abbreviated version of the scribble for you on this Saturday, January 31st. Live from West Hollywood. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I will talk to you next time. Oh, I'm going to talk to you on Monday, by the way, because we are now doing the Scribble twice a week. There's another big story for you. 2 Scribbles every week. Friday, and then a new one on Monday. So Mondays and Fridays with Jeremy Bradley on the Scribble. And I will talk to you Monday. Bye-bye for now, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at thescribbleshow. The Scribble is a Speak Free media presentation.
If you want some real